My year kind of started off on a little bit of a rocky patch. About a month or a month and a half into my tenure, our executive director retired. So just as I'm learning my way around things, I had to also learn the executive director's job. And it presented a bit of a challenge, but it was wonderful because a lot of members, past presidents, and my board all stepped up to help during this time period, and the ultimate result was fantastic. I think the absolute highlight of my year and the accomplishment I'm most proud of was that as a result of this, we hired our current executive director, Darina York. And Darina has been a blessing to the club and continues to be. And I'm just, every time I come into a meeting and see Darina there, it makes me proud that we made that decision, because it wasn't the easy decision. She was the most qualified, but also the most expensive. So it was a little bit of a challenge to kind of get that past the board, but we did. And I think that it's been a great thing as a result of that. But prior to that, I had done a club survey before my year started. So while I was still president-elect in the spring, I did a survey of membership to try to determine what were the hot buttons for the club. What did they want to see? And as a result of that, one of the things that came out was they felt that our meetings were getting a little bit tedious, that there were too much administration and such that was going on during the course of the year. So thought long and hard about that and worked with my directors and my board and tried to come up with a strategy on how we would approach this. So one of the primary things that we did was we decided to try to eliminate a lot of the administrative details and administrative work that were done in the meetings. And in order to do that, we had to figure out a way of giving the people who normally had announcements and other types of business that they'd like to conduct a format or a platform to do that. So we negotiated with the DoubleTree a second video screen and a second video projector. And the idea behind it was that anybody who wanted to make an announcement or had business to present to the club, they would have to present first a video slide. So the thinking was, if it was important enough for them to talk, it was important enough for them to put something up on screen. And number one, it discouraged a bunch of people who just wanted mic time. And number two, what it also did was, since we had two screens going on, we were able to take advantage of that, and that we would have more things scrolling on during the meeting. It also gave us an opportunity to promote our membership and our members and such in there. So that also then allowed us to keep a focus on our programs and to devote more time to our programs, because sometimes in the past we would always run into situations where club business would eat up the balance or the majority of the meeting, and by the time it was time for the speaker to come on, they had 10 or 15 minutes. And I am a stickler for time. Anybody who knows me knows that, and I like to respect people's time. I like to respect our members' time. I also was very cognizant of giving our program, our speakers, the time that they deserved. So I was very, very conscious of this. We'd cut down on the administrative business and then focus on the programs and give the speaker plenty of time to speak. So one of the other things that came out of the survey that we did was that programs were a key to our membership. It was something that they look forward to. So I worked really closely with our program committee. I got Ken Light, a friend of mine, to step up and take over during the course of that year. And one of the things we discussed early on with the committee was, what can we do to create a hallmark program during the course of the year? And what we decided to do was try to put together an economic summit, bringing together some of the leading community leaders and economic leaders. And it took some doing to convince them all to do this and to get them on the same schedule. But eventually, we were able to schedule a meeting with the mayor, the county administrator, the head of TRIO, and the head of the Chamber of Commerce, and to sit down in one meeting that was moderated by one of our local TV anchors, Dan Maris, and to spend the entire session talking about a number of issues that were key to the community. So we took advantage of this, and by doing that, we advertised to all the other clubs in town and just to the general public. And as a result of that, we had 125 guests that day. 175 members show up, which is somewhere between 80 and 90% of our membership. So a total of 300 people were at this meeting. And it was a lot of fun. It brought great publicity to the club. And it kind of set a hallmark of our programs for the coming year. And then it's something that a number of the following presidents have tried to do too, to come up with a big meeting. One of the other things that was kind of important to me was dealing kind of with our club history and on our roots. And our club was sponsored by the Phoenix 100 Club. And the Phoenix 100 Club had been the largest club in the state. And there was kind of a unspoken rivalry between the two, but there wasn't any cooperation between the two clubs for a number of years. There used to be things that went on back and forth between the clubs, but that had kind of died off over time. So at the international convention, I happened to run into the president, the incoming president of the Phoenix 100 Club, and he and I had a discussion about what we could do to reignite that relationship between the two clubs. So we came up with kind of a little contest that dealt with Paul Harris giving, with membership, and with attendance. And whoever won 2 out of the 3 of those had to donate $1,000 to the other club's charity of choice. And I think our club took it more seriously than they did, because we won all 3 of those challenges and ultimately got the $1,000 from them. But more importantly, we started to cooperate and work on each other's main fundraisers. That year was coming up on the Phoenix 100 centennial anniversary, so they had a centennial project going on that was Pack a Million Meals with this charity that did that. So they engaged us to set up an opportunity to do the same in Tucson. So with the help of Dave Gallagher, our president-elect that year, we put together a Saturday where we got Rotarians from our club, from other clubs, and volunteers, and we actually packed in excess of 70,000 meals in that particular day and helped out the Phoenix 100 Club with their goal of packing 1 million meals in their year for their centennial project. And they, in turn, helped us out. They came down to our car show. They helped sponsor some things that year, so it was a pretty good thing from there. A couple other things that I think were highlights of my year, and I think this is a highlight of our club in general, that it's very generous. And during the course of my year, I kind of tabulated up what we did financially in terms of supporting both local charities and Rotary International. And at the end of the year, the total came up to almost $200,000, and that's above and beyond the service that we did. So those were, I think, some of the things that were highlights in my year, plus some of the more important accomplishments as well. There were a couple other things that we did that were part of my year that I think were important components too. We had 2 club assemblies, and club assemblies in the past had been looked upon as something that was kind of dull and not entertaining for the membership and not productive either. So we did 2 of them. The first one was we took all of our committee chairs, and at the time I think we had 56 different committees, and they were all able to present a brief presentation about what their committee does, what their needs were, and I think that enlightened the membership, and especially the younger members who hadn't been around for a while, what our club does from a service perspective, not just from a financial giving. Another key thing for me was starting off the year by attending the International Convention in Bangkok, which is a wonderful, wonderful benefit that our club enables for its incoming president. The convention in Bangkok turned out to be the 3rd largest attended conference in Rotary history, only surpassed by the Centennial Conference in Chicago, and by the, I think it was 2 years prior to my attendance, the convention in Tokyo. There were over 38,000 people that attended during the course of that year. So, and then finally, to wrap up the year, we were honored by our district and by Rotary International by getting the Presidential Citation for all the work our membership did during the course of the year. One of the biggest components of our club is our annual fundraiser, the Tucson Classics Car Show. And we had a very successful car show that year. We raised almost $120,000 net that were given out to our charities. We had membership participation topping 90%, and it just continued to build on the tradition that our club had established of making one of the premier fundraising and membership participation events in the city. You know, the year also had its challenges. One of them I've already alluded to. My biggest challenge, I think, also turned out to be my most proud accomplishment, and that was hiring our new executive director. It was difficult a month into my term to find out that in 2 weeks our current executive director was going to be leaving. So I relied heavily on Arla, our assistant at that time, and my board and past presidents to kind of coalesce and cover those duties in the meantime, and then conduct a search that Ellie Patterson was so helpful with, bringing us some very qualified candidates, and eventually we hired Darina York, and she has been a godsend to our club. Another challenge that popped up during the course of the year was in the spring, one of our directors, Alan Schroep, left the club for a job out of state. So mid-term, we had to find someone to step into Alan's shoes and take over all of the work that Alan had been doing. And Matt Blair stepped up in that. He was an incoming director, and so he just started his term a little bit early and did a wonderful job for us, picking up where Alan had left off. And then I think the other challenge, and I know that every one of our club presidents experiences this, is kind of knowing when to tell a well-intentioned, well-meaning member, often a past president, that while their advice and their counseling is appreciated, I got this. I'm ready to take this on. I appreciate it. And so you just have to learn and get enough confidence in your own abilities and feel comfortable enough in your own role to know when to make that kind of judgment call. One of the most surprising things for me was the support and the respect that you got in this role of being club president. It really was amazing how many people kind of were deferential to you after this and really honored the position and the authority, and not really the authority, but the leadership that you were presenting in there. And then when difficult times and challenges presented themselves, how members were willing to step up and help. And all you had to do was ask. And I would kind of use that as a recommendation to, incoming presidents. Don't be afraid to ask. People often won't just step up and volunteer, but if you ask them, they are usually very good about helping you out. I think the most inspirational thing that happened to me during the course of my year, and it happened actually at the PETS, the President-elect's training in the spring, so I'd already been in office for about 5 or 6 years, and it kind of shaped the way I looked at Rotary going forward, was Brad Howard, who is our current zone director, was one of the speakers. And I was thoroughly impressed with Brad. And Brad had one take on Rotary that I think was unique and different and has really influenced my thinking, not only for the balance of my year, but going forward in Rotary. And Brad kind of challenged us to think about looking at Rotary in a very different way. He said in the past, Rotary was always considered a service club with members. And he said it should be the opposite of that. It really should be considered as a membership club that does service. And while it seems like that's a play on words, it's a really fundamental change in thinking about what Rotary is. And he went on to explain that thinking of it as a membership club that does service, it puts our membership first. They're our customers, they're our clients. We treat them as their gold. And as a result of that, our membership then wants to do the service. And he also mentioned that in doing that, some of the things that you need to do is to let your membership know what a valuable experience Rotary is for them, both personally and professionally as well. And it's in professional development, in contacts that are made, and to sell those points when you're going out and looking for new members to your club. And by doing that, it's going to be much easier to not only retain, but to get new members in there. And Brad's take on that, while it seems simple and just kind of a play on words to me, was just fundamental in changing the way that I think about Rotary. Looking back, there are obviously a lot of highlights during the course of the year, but there are two things, and they're really one and the same, but they happened at two different times that to me was extremely gratifying. And the first was shortly after I had taken office, I received numerous phone calls, emails, notes from members and from past presidents welcoming me into the position and saying that if you need my help, you need my guidance at any point in time, please feel free to call me. And that was, a really nice way to start the year. But even better, after the year concluded, I got the same thing. I got notes, I got phone calls, I got emails from members, from past presidents thanking me for my service and thanking me for that leadership. And that was really meaningful to me. And it was something that showed that, that they really honor the time and the dedication for all of our volunteers and for the people in our club that step up and take over these leadership roles. Thinking back on it and having a couple of years now in the rears, what would I offer? What could I offer to someone who's considering becoming president, or someone who has been asked to be president, or someone who is just about ready to become president? And to quote, the wonderful marketing company Nike, I would just say, just do it. And by that I mean, just embrace it, get into it, and honor and respect the privilege that has been granted you to do this. It is a wonderful experience. You meet a lot of great people. You're provided with a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of respect shown to you, but it's also a wonderful personal development opportunity. For me, it gave me great confidence after a period of time to get up in front of large groups and to speak. It also gave me confidence in my ability to kind of lead a group of high-powered, well-qualified executives and business leaders from around the community. And those personal development things are great. And just make certain that you honor the position and realize that it is a team effort, that you are not a dictator in this role. You are a leader of a group of very qualified people. You listen to their advice, you bring people together, and then as a result of that, you help steer the ship. I'd really like to thank all of my board members during the course of the year, because without their help and their support and their service, my year, which I hope was successful, wouldn't have been possible. And that started off with Joni Condit, our past president, who I followed in the role, Dave Gallagher, who was the incoming president, my secretary, Ellie Patterson, who will be the incoming club president next year, my treasurer, Phil Goot, who is currently the club president, my sergeant at arms, Kevin Wong, and then our directors, Cliff Bowman, who is our president-elect nominee, Eileen Decker, Tom Andrews, Gary Hirsch, Alan Schroep, Matt Blair, and Drew Vactor. All of these people put together were a wonderful, wonderful board. Without their help, without their support, it wouldn't have been possible. And I really find it very gratifying that 3 of my board members have gone on to become club presidents.